Tenebrous Tingles.
Hello and welcome to Tenebrous Tingles. Thank you for joining us. I'm Zandi,
And I'm Eve.
and today we are going to be talking about Arkansas.
So, Zandi, what did you choose for Arkansas?
I chose the Allen House in Monticello.
Okay, that's going to be awesome.
And what about you?
Well, I chose the Crescent Hotel and Spa and the Snoffus.
Okay,
Um, I chose a couple of things because I'm indecisive.
that's fair.
Yeah. One of our listeners said that he was interested in more hotel stories. So, I went with the Crescent Hotel and Spa. And we actually got another listener that emailed a whole bunch of ideas, and I chose one of those.
Awesome.
So thank you, both of those listeners, for the suggestions and the encouragement. So the Crescent Hotel and Spa, I had already heard of because it's one of those places on my list of things I'd like to do one day, just because it sounds so lovely. It has supposedly natural healing properties in the water and spa treatments and beautiful scenery, and just I'm sort of a sucker for all of that. I did not realize that it was considered such a haunted place because I just I guess I don't notice that stuff. I end up in places and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is haunted. All right."
I would have just gone for the spa part, personally.
Yeah.
Gotta love a spa.
Yeah, right. The natural hot springs in the area are, said to have rejuvenating qualities, and the word of mouth about that drew people to form the community that is now known as Eureka Springs. The Crescent Hotel and Spa was originally built in 1886 to welcome the wealthy to take advantage of the healing properties of the water. It is nestled deep in the Ozark Mountains and often called America's most haunted hotel. You'd think with that I would have figured out in, trying to go there that I would have learned that, but I didn't until I was looking for this specifically. It is a grand Victorian building, and it's at the top of a hill surrounded by forests, and it overlooks all of Eureka Springs. Supposedly, this beautiful historic spa has halls that echo with the footsteps that no longer belong to the living once night falls. While it was successful as a hotel and spa at first, that did eventually fade, and the building was used in other ways. Over the years, it was a girls' boarding school, a summer college, and in the 1930s, it actually took a really dark turn.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it got kind of ugly. This part made me sad and mad kind of all at once. It's not good. So Norman Baker, who was not a doctor, but somehow was able to pose as one, ran a fake hospital inside the Crescent from 1937 to 1940.
I think that was pretty common in that time period.
He claimed that he was able to cure cancer with secret tonics that he had made and experimental treatments that he had come up with. But really, these poor sick people were just being given water that had food coloring in it and just being fed all this cruel false hope. I'm not even sure if he was banking on the healing qualities of the water that, the legends said that there were. I think that he was just taking advantage of something beautiful and making it awful. Many of those people died there, unaware that they'd been lied to and that they had actually not received any treatment at all. I'm not even sure if they were given things like they would have been given in hospice care, like to deal with the pain of the cancer. Like they were just allowed to drink this water and told it was a tonic and just left to suffer through the dying of cancer. Truly disgusting behavior on the part of Norman Baker.
So they were dying from the cancer, not something in the water he gave them, right?
As far as I understand, yes, because they showed up sick because he told them he had a cure.
Okay.
He was able to convince them that he could cure them of cancer. And, so that's how they got there. I don't believe that he was, well, I was going to say I don't believe he was murdering them, but really he was because he was neglecting to tell them the truth. And yeah, he's a murderer.
Yeah, that's pretty murdery.
Right. And so with that awfulness begins the legends of ghosts. It was said that Baker's hospital of broken promises left behind restless spirits, which, I mean, it makes sense that something that big and terrible would leave a lasting impression. The ghosts have been reported by various guests and staff, lots of experiences. There's so many stories. So I chose to share a few of the more famous ones and then, some personal experiences, not by me, but, from a friend. So, room 218 has had doors opening and slamming shut, lights flickering on by themselves, the sound of hammering echoing in the walls, and disembodied heavy footsteps pacing the floor. Some people have even had their sleep interrupted by feeling unseen hands on them, like someone's trying to shake them awake. And all of those shenanigans have been blamed on a stonemason who unfortunately fell to his death while building the original hotel in 1885. He was an Irishman named Michael. He fell from the roof during that construction and landed on and passed away on the spot that became room 218. There are stories of people who have seen him. His interactions seem to be mostly with staff or construction workers, especially during periods of reconstruction. Now, as for the guests, it seems like he likes playing with the ladies a little bit more often.
Define playing.
Well, one woman said that she was having a peaceful night and then she was just shaken awake and she looked and nobody was there. And then hammering started happening in the walls. And then the bathroom light flicked on. And so it is said that he acts out a little bit more for ladies
Okay.
as far as guests, but the staff and construction workers, I don't think it matters. Those who have been able to interact with him have described his presence as playful and aware. So he doesn't really frighten anyone, at least intentionally. I mean, I think if I was shaken awake, I would initially be a little bit frightened.
Yeah.
And it's more than just like a residual echo. Like the couple that danced through the lobby at the last hotel we spoke about, that's more like an echo.
Yeah.
His presence seems to be interactive, like the like the register book taker in the last hotel.
That guy.
He smiled as he
Yeah.
did it.
I mean, just trolling the people on the desk. So Michael is more, he shows off more for the ladies.
Yes, he's considered sort of a prankster, and there are a few more stories from ladies for him. Not a lot was around to find about his life, but he was a real person, and he did work on the hotel, and he did pass away in that way, so at least all of that is provable. He was described by his coworkers as a skilled laborer, which, I mean, I think you would have to be in order to do that kind of work.
I think so.
Um, he was generally a happy person. He made everybody around him laugh. He had a very silly nature. And one report, this is really sad, but one report from a coworker, I believe, says that his death was brought on because while he was up there working, he called down to a woman who was passing below, trying to flirt while he was way up high.
Oh no, Michael.
I know. And that's how he lost his balance. So that's pretty sobering and sad. But I can appreciate why people are hopeful to experience him. He sounds like a lot of fun.
He does. But also, Sir, there's a time and a place for everything. Maybe,
Michael, pay attention.
yeah. Tie yourself off first if you're going to flirt.
Get it together.
Safety is very important here.
Yeah, I know. Safety. Oh, so sad.
It is sad, but, at least he's still having fun.
I mean, from those reports, it sounds like he is. Another very well-known ghost is Theodora. And the stories were kind of, there were a few stories about her. In some of them, she was one of the victims of Norman Baker's scam, and she passed away in the hospital, unfortunately. But in other stories, she was a nurse for the cancer hospital. I'm not sure which one it was, but she was associated with the hospital in some way. The sightings of her have been near or around or in room 419. Well, that one is the second most requested room. Michael's room is the first. She apparently tidies up the room when guests are not there.
And I was about to book that room because
Oh, it gets better. She's actually pretty cute. She's been seen trying to clumsily work her keys, which that part's sad. And then she just kind of vanishes when she's fumbling with them and then is gone. Some people have even reported that she asks for help. Like she interacts in that way. She asks for help to find her room and then she just vanishes. She is she's seen as an older woman. And she apparently dislikes arguing in the guests. So if you stay in room 419, make sure that you're all getting along. So usually she places things neatly in a room. If you leave it messy, she'll kind of tidy up for you in the way that she sees fit. Like one woman had her dog toys kind of placed where she thought they were neatly placed, but Theodora felt that they should be placed differently. And so she moved them.
okay.
Okay, agree to disagree. I'd probably be like, all right, we can put things wherever you want. Just
That's right. This is your hotel and this is fine. I'm just a guest.
don't be scary. But yeah, you can put things where you want.
Do not want a squeak toy bouncing off my head in the middle of the night.
Right. Nobody wants that. But one couple that was staying there, they were having some trouble. They were arguing while they were unpacking in the room. They got everything unpacked, they got settled in, and they got their things all put into the room and set up, but they were arguing while they did it. And then they left to go do whatever it is that they were going to do. And when they came back, their bags were entirely packed again and sitting right next to the door.
No, your stay is over. Bye.
Yeah, she said, "Get out. I do not care for your nonsense." And they apparently took the hint and left, and I can't be mad about that because if I am not welcome,
That was not a subtle hint.
yeah, time to go. I agree. No problem. And so my favorite ghost, there's a few, but my very favorite is Morris the cat.
Obviously. I was gonna be like, not Theodora, and now I understand.
I mean, I picked the best ones though.
You did.
So Morris the cat lived on the grounds and he was apparently known as the hotel general manager for 21 years. That's adorable, right?
Right? He has a job. Did he have like a name tag?
Oh, I don't know. He had the job for 21 years though, so I assume he did a lovely job.
Yeah.
When he passed away in 1994, he was put to rest on the property. You can see his marker and everything. But it's been said that he rubs against people's legs and then disappears. Most of his, playing and appearances have been in the morgue. The morgue was not part of the original hotel. Like they added it when it became a hospital. And I mean, the morgue is still there because it is. I don't know. And they think that he stays in the morgue now because while he was running the place, that was the maintenance shed, and I guess that was Morris's office.
Okay, that makes sense.
So this hotel has a morgue.
Still, I mean, is it used as a morgue or is it just
Ooh, good question. I don't think so because they do ghost tours and the morgue is part of it. It would be pretty disrespectful if if you had someone in the morgue and there's a ghost tour, passing by.
that's true?
I think it's mostly because it was left there as part of the hotel and it's part of the tour now.
Yeah.
Some other ghosts are there's a woman in a Victorian dress that's seen wandering. She was thought to have been a teacher during the time the property spent as a school. There are various patients, doctors, a Saint Bernard, and some children that are all included in the ghosts of Crescent Hotel and Spa. They show themselves as like a bouncing ball one of the children is said to have played with, or the sound of footsteps and children's laughter at times when children are not in the hotel. The feeling of a slobbery tongue kiss. Hopefully, that one is from the dog.
Hopefully.
The smell of Dr. John Fremont Ellis's cherry pipe tobacco is sometimes smelled when you're hanging around room 212, which was his office during the time it was a hospital. There are cold spots and glowing orbs that are visible to the naked eye or sometimes only in pictures, and a dramatic descending mist coming from the third floor balcony. Around the same time in the evenings, about I think it was 10:30 p.m., supposedly a woman fell to her death around that time. Unfortunately, I did not find out much more about her, but the mist is attributed to her because that was, that time frame and the location.
Yeah.
The hotel really embraces the haunted reputation. They have ghost tours nearly every night. Some staff is willing to share experiences. Guests have brought back stories of orbs in photos, voices caught on recordings, strange knocks at their hotel rooms, and then, sometimes experiences from spending the night. Even if you don't have an experience or are skeptical and don't expect to see anything at all, the history of the building in the area is really interesting. It would be worth it just for that to go on the tour.
Yeah.
I was able to speak with somebody who stayed at the hotel and went on the tour. Several tours in that area, actually. He helped me quite a bit, but he wanted his shout out to be mysterious rather than being called out by name.
Hello, mysterious individual from Arkansas.
Thank you very much. You know who you are, mysterious person from Arkansas. When he stayed there, he stayed in room 218. He said that it was difficult to get that particular room. It's really highly requested, so we had to plan pretty far in advance. He unfortunately did not see anything himself. He actually really wanted to.
Aww.
Yeah, I was sad about that. And I asked him, well, did you have a woman staying with you? And he did not. But, I was like, oh, Michael likes the ladies. You got to bring a girl back. He got to speak to a lot of the staff during his stay. And he said that some of them were reluctant to share. Maybe they were busy or just didn't really have anything to share. Others were really enthusiastic, but kind of vague. And there were some that shared really specific situations. The most common was smelling pipe smoke or hearing footsteps. And he did say that he just wasn't sure how much was said to enhance the atmosphere and, how much was true. But there's been so many stories over such a long period of time that it's fair to say that there have been genuine experiences by some people. So whether you believe in ghosts or not, the Crescent Hotel and Spa is a historic landmark with a really interesting story. If you get to stay there one day, I hope that you are lucky enough to encounter one of its permanent residents.
Morris the cat being my favorite.
Yes, I was going to say, if you want to share your experience, especially with Morris the cat, I would love to hear that because Morris the cat is my new obsession.
Mine too.
Yeah. I don't know what he looks like, but he sounds like an orange cat, right?
He does sound like an orange cat. He was an orange cat.
Oh, I knew it. Orange cat energy for the win.
You know it when you hear it, and that absolutely sounds like an orange cat, and he was.
The snoffus is such a fun word to say. That was the next one that I decided to do just because it's fun and cute. And so that was our first email that we got.
It was. And
Um,
we've gotten several comments
it
too,
was.
which I am really happy about. So you guys keep commenting, keep emailing us, let us know things. We're looking forward to reading everything.
Yes. And the same mystery friend that stayed at the Crescent, he also directed me to a book called We Always Lie to Strangers by Vance Randolph. If you are looking for an entertaining read, you should check it out. There was some information in it about the Snoffus, but it has so many more stories. I just, I took the one I liked the best. And it is about how the folklore started with the traditions of playing or lying with foreigners, but then they're passed down through the generations. So maybe some of them started with a grain of truth. Who knows? But I love the folklore aspect of it. Some of those legendary monsters that are talked about in these stories have even made it into newspapers, into the local newspapers. And the Snoffus, I cannot say the word without smiling. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's fun, even if I'm saying it wrong. I imagine that I will hear about it if I'm saying it wrong.
That's okay.
That's okay. Tell me. It is a creature of regional Ozark folklore. It is an all white, large, deer like creature with antlers that are plum or dogwood branches, depending on who tells the story, but they're always in full bloom.
Ooh,
Right?
how cool is that?
Yes.
I want to see a Snoffus.
Right? The size also depends on who is telling the story. You know, it can be the size of a regular deer, but just a little bit larger, or so big that you can only see one leg at a time and its head is in the clouds. But then I don't know how you'd see the dogwoods blooming. I don't know. It is related by the locals as being just an albino deer that happens to have supernatural abilities. No big deal. just
No big deal.
just a
I see those
magical
all the
deer.
time.
Yeah, it's just magic deer. It is considered to be wondrous but not dangerous.
You know, somebody tried to hunt that thing.
Yes, and that's in one of the stories,
I knew it.
right? I don't know what is wrong with people. Like, look at this beautiful creature, this magical creature. Someone's gonna be like, we should kill it.
I'm gonna hang its head on my wall. I wonder if it still blooms.
So sad. But it is said to fly through the trees as quietly as a bird, gliding like an owl. One story does relate that it hollers. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna feel really silly. That it hollers holly hoo as it travels like that.
Okay.
Say it.
Holly hoo.
Holly hoo.
Holly
Okay.
hoo.
Okay, I'm done with that. The blue haze that hangs over the mountains in the Ozarks, it is attributed to the Snoffus. It is his exhalations because he breathes out this blue smoke and it spreads and just comes to rest over the mountains as it flies overhead. There's a lot of stories about the origin of this creature as well. There are tales of sightings. So whether it is real or not is actually pretty debated still, sometimes heatedly by locals. So I don't know. Regardless, that legend, even if it is just a silly, tall story that started, it has continued to be passed down through the years. And one origin story describes an albino fawn being caught and raised by a family on an orchard as a pet, and they loved him. And then one day, when it had grown into this beautiful, healthy buck, the patriarch of the family tied it up and grafted Arkansas black scions onto his antlers. And from that time, the antlers just continued blooming and growing these big, beautiful apples every year. So in that story, it's apple blossoms that are blossoming. In another one of the origin stories, a man was hunting with these plum pits instead of bullets because, why not? It's resourceful. And he hit a white buck in the head with the plum pit. And rather than falling dead, the deer stopped for a minute, looked at him, and then ran away. After that, there were all these sightings of a deer with blooming branches that started getting back to him. And he actually responded to those sightings, saying that people had probably just seen the deer he'd hit, where he basically planted a plum tree in the poor thing's head. And, he was like, well, they just added embellishments about the flying and supernatural abilities. That one's kind of weird and magical too. It is considered to be a warning of imminent death to those who actually do see him. It said that if you see this office, you're just not long for this world. I like the fairy tale magic of like a big flowering deer kind of wandering through the Ozarks, but who knows?
I think there's a Pokemon with a flowering branch deer. I know there is, but I can't remember its name.
I wonder if it stemmed from this story.
Maybe.
All right, so the Allen house was one of yours, right?
I only did the one this week because it's a lot.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, so the Allen House is in Monticello. It's a Victorian style home that was built in 1906 by Joe Lee Allen. He had 3 daughters, and the middle daughter's name was Liddell. And he named a city nearby after her. So there is a Liddell, Arkansas, near Monticello.
I want a city named after me.
Can you imagine what his other 2 daughters thought about that?
Oh, right. Sibling rivalry at its finest.
I know, just pick the middle daughter. This is fine. Liddell was born in 1894, and she was married to a man named Boyd Bonner in 1914 and had a son named Elliot Allen Boyd in 1915. They actually got divorced in 1927.
Ooh, back then it was like scandalous, right?
It was a little scandalous and also not at all common because women weren't able to make their own fortunes. They couldn't have bank accounts, they couldn't have jobs really, they couldn't really do anything on their own. But her family had money.
Oh, okay. So that's good.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
covered.
and she had custody of her son, so
Yay.
that was good. This is the story of Liddell Bonner. She is the main character of what makes the Allen house haunted. Although some people feel like her son Alan, he went by Alan instead of Elliot, they feel like Alan also haunts the mansion.
Okay.
At age 54, Liddell Bonner was taken to the hospital on Christmas Day as she had drank mercury cyanide.
Oh my.
She lived for 8 more days in the hospital before she succumbed to the poisoning.
Why did she do that? Was it intentional?
It was intentional. She did it to herself.
Oh.
They took her to the Mac Wilson Hospital for treatment and they did the best they could. Some people initially believed that um, it was something that she had done, not necessarily with the intent of ending herself, but because she was an alcoholic and it was there. But most people don't believe that that's the case at all.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
She was an alcoholic, but they don't think that she confused bottles, that she did it intentionally. And we're going to get into the reason why. And this is a really interesting story. And I went really deep into this to figure out exactly what was going on.
Okay.
After Liddell's death, which happened in 1948, her mother sealed her bedroom. Her mother was in her 70s when Liddell came back home to live with her mother to help take care of her. And that's when everything happened that brought her to this point. So when she died, her mother sealed up her bedroom. In the mid 1950s, after her mother died, the house was sold and it was bought by some people who turned the building into apartments.
When you say sealed, what do you mean? Do you mean she just closed the door and didn't go back in? Or she actually had it like walled off.
She didn't have it walled off, but it was locked and padlocked.
So when she sold the building, people had not been in there.
People had not been in there, and it doesn't look like people actually went in there for the first several years of it being apartment buildings because that particular room was not turned into an apartment and sublet.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it was an apartment complex from the mid 1950s until the 1980s, and I don't know the exact date of when that room particularly was unsealed, but I do know that the whole time it was sealed, people would look up and see a figure of a woman standing at the window. And I do know that once they did unseal the room, that a cyanide bottle was found on the closet shelf.
Was it the cyanide bottle?
It was the cyanide bottle. And the chemist who sold her the mercury cyanide, apparently after her death, he was really depressed and felt really guilty about it. He didn't sell it to her for this purpose.
What would have been a purpose?
It was apparently used as some sort of acne treatment or some sort of skin treatment at this point in time. I don't know why, but it was. And that's why he sold it to her, but she drank it.
Oh, that poor guy.
Yeah, his son took over the business after he retired, and he told people when they questioned him about it later that his father felt really guilty for the rest of his life about it. And it's not his fault. He couldn't have known. During the time that these were apartments, people who lived there stated that they had all kinds of experiences. They saw the woman standing in the window of the bedroom that was sealed. They had items go missing in various rooms. There was one man who had some very heavy furniture and it was moved across his room when he was out working for the day. When he got home, it had been moved.
Moved how? Like just rearranged?
Just rearranged. Yeah, this very heavy furniture was rearranged in his apartment when he came home from work. And he left and he never came back. I don't know if he left the furniture or not, but he never came back.
I wonder if it was arranged better than when he left it. Just an interior design situation.
No idea. I mean, he was a single guy, so I don't know how good he was at it, but it was pretty heavy, so he was very displeased with the whole moving of the furniture thing, and he's just like, nope, I'm out. Um, there was a couple who were staying in the apartments, and they had a friend that was visiting, and they saw a woman in the closet. So to play it, they thought that she was trying to get in the closet to scare them. So they slammed the door of the closet and like pushed it in, and they could hear giggling inside. And someone was trying to push the door out so that she could get out.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then the friend walks in from the other room and is like, "What are y'all doing?"
Oh no.
And about that time, there's another giggle, and the pushing stops. So they jerk the door open, and there's no one there.
Did they stay?
It doesn't say whether or not they stayed. I mean, you never know what somebody's situation is when they live in an apartment complex. Maybe they couldn't afford to move. Maybe they thought it was funny. Maybe they left. A lot of these are anecdotal. They don't really say what happened after the fact. It says that the police had been called repeatedly out to these different apartments for intruders, that people would see someone in their apartment or they would hear the door open or the windows open. So they would go and look and they'd call the police and the police would come out there and nobody would be there.
Well, none of these actions sound malicious, really. It sounds
No, they're
more
not.
playful.
They do sound more playful, but if you're not expecting it and you don't know what's going on, I'm sure it can be very disconcerting. There was a college student in 1968 who had just moved in with his newlywed wife, and he took a picture of his wife in their new apartment, and there is a ghostly woman standing behind her.
Photobomb.
Yep. And people say that it looks like Liddell. And there was a party that was going on in the 60s, and there were several people in the downstairs area, which was, I think it was one of the larger apartments. And a female guest went into the bathroom downstairs, and she was locked in. and she was banging on the door, rattling the handle, just trying to get out with everything she had. But she couldn't get out until somebody else started walking towards the door to see what all the ruckus was. And then the doorknob just turned and she could open it just fine, and there was nobody else there.
Does the door normally lock from the outside, or was it just being held closed?
It was just being held closed.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, really uncomfortable. And there was a worker. She was a hired servant in the 80s, and she was coming down the stairs, and she said she saw Miss Liddell. No, she was going up the stairs, and she said she saw Miss Liddell coming down the stairs at the same time. And she said nope, and just left and never came back to work there anymore. So then in the 90s, they decided to open up a gift shop for this house. And apparently, the ghosts were not here for capitalistic endeavors because they kept throwing things and breaking things in the gift shop overnight.
That's the only stuff that they broke was the stuff in the gift shop?
Yes.
So they did not appreciate the capitalism.
They did not. They did not appreciate having a gift shop set up in the home of their demise or whatever else was going on.
I mean, I get it, I think.
After the 90s, I don't know exactly who bought the house, but at some point there was a lady that the people who bought it in 2009 called Miss Marilyn. They don't give her real name. That's fine. We don't care about that. But she bought it and she lived there for an unknown period of time until they bought it from her in 2009 and moved in with their children. And they had two boys and a girl. And most of these stories are going to come from them. Not the ones that I just told you about, but most of what's we're going to find out next. We learn from the people who bought it in 2009. So from her death, despite the fact that they did find the cyanide bottle, nobody really knew why she did this because she had a lot of friends. She had a good life other than, being 54 and divorced, and her son had died 5 years previously at the age of 28.
Oh no.
And that was hard
What
for
happened to
her.
him?
It doesn't go into that. I don't know what happened to him, but he did die at the age of 28, 5 years before she did. And there's different stories about how she handled it. Some people say she handled it very well, and some people say that it got really hard for her, especially around the holidays.
Both things could be true, honestly.
Both things could be true because you show different faces to different people, especially as a Southern woman. We're fine. Everything's fine.
Yep, I'm
Don't
okay.
worry about a thing. I'm okay.
I'm always okay.
So the owners, they bought it in 2009 and they started renovating it, getting it back up to snuff, trying to make it a home, getting rid of any leaks that they found, painting it, just making sure that it was kept up and nice. They had already renovated one one Victorian house in the area, and this was the one that they had initially wanted. But the lady that they were trying to buy it from was a little bit reluctant to sell, so she kept putting off the sell date. So in the meantime, they bought a smaller Victorian house, renovated it, and then put it back on the market when this one came open and the lady was finally able to bring herself to the closing. Which, if you've got a beautiful Victorian home and you don't really need the cash, I can understand why you wouldn't really want to sell it and move out, no matter how much somebody else wants it, right?
Oh yeah, that would be tough to let go of.
Absolutely. And it is a beautiful, beautiful home. It's got dormers and tower, and it's beautiful, especially now that it's been renovated.
But no gift shop anymore.
No gift shop anymore. So the owners, while they were doing their renovations and getting everything settled in, they went and they found a tombstone of a 5-year-old child named Houston Meredith from 1900 in one of the carriage house walls. And this is
Hmm,
weird because the house wasn't
that
even
is
built
weird.
until 1906, and the carriage house wasn't built until a little while after that.
The tombstone was inside the wall?
The tombstone was inside the wall. It had something that had been broken off of the top. They suspect a cherub, and then it had stains at the bottom as if it had been in a cemetery at some point, but no longer was. And they couldn't find anything about who Houston Meredith was. They just know he was a 5-year-old child. And the thing is they also had a 5-year-old child when they bought this house. His name was Jacob. The couple bought the house in '07, not 2009. We'll get to why I said 2009 in just a second, but the house was actually bought in 2007. And the first thing they saw right before they bought the house, and after everybody in the town told them it was haunted and you don't want that house, to the point that one of the realtors wouldn't even help them. She just started ignoring them when they came into her office. And
Word?
yeah, a little bit. But they they didn't know what was going on, so they're just like, oh, okay, that's fine. We'll just go and ask the lady ourselves if she wants to sell the house. So that's what they did.
Did they know of their reputation and it didn't bother them, or were they totally ignorant to it?
They did know of the reputation, and it didn't bother them. They figured any old house, somebody is going to say it's haunted anyway.
Oh,
And everyone in this
good.
town, like every time they went to the grocery store or anything else, they knew that these people wanted this house. And they had moved there because the husband had gotten a job at the local university. So I think he was going to be the dean at the local university. And that's why they had moved to the area. So the night before they went for their first tour, after Miss Marilyn said that she was going to sell the house to them, yes, it got pushed back a couple of years. But the first night that they went for the tour, when she said that she would sell the house to them and they went for that initial walkthrough, they thought they saw her upstairs in the room because they drove past it. You know, they're like, tomorrow we get to see what the inside of this house that we want is going to look like.
They had not seen the inside?
They had not seen the inside when they decided they wanted it.
Oh, wow.
The night before, they drove past and they saw a woman in the upstairs bedroom. And they said, well, that must be her right there. But they didn't want to stop and bother her because it was kind of late at night. And they were going to see her the next morning anyway. So when they get there the next
Okay.
morning and they start doing this tour, they find out that not only was Miss Marilyn not even in town that night, she didn't get in town until that morning, but the room is stacked so full of boxes that there was no way to get to the window.
So it had been opened by that time. It had been unsealed, but it was being
Yes,
used as storage.
it had been unsealed when it was an apartment complex, and that's when they found the cyanide bottle. But it was being used as storage, and it was the main bedroom, so I'm not sure why this lady decided to use it as storage, but she did.
That would be so interesting to unseal that room and walk into like a time capsule.
I don't know how long it was sealed. I mean, it could have been done in the early 1960s, the mid 1960s. It doesn't really say, so it might not have been sealed for that long.
Oh, okay.
But at any rate, in 2007, when it was purchased, it was unsealed, and the lady who owned it at that point in time had all of her stuff in there. And actually, this happened in, I guess this would have started in 2005. So the apparition would be something that they saw in 2005 with the stacked boxes, because that was when they started the paperwork to buy the house and they didn't close on it until 2007. At this point, no one knew why Liddell had done what she had done, and they're not going to find that out until 2009. Just to be clear, paperwork started in 2005, closed on the house in 2007, mystery solved in 2009. Okay?
Okay, I'm so excited for the mystery to be solved, though. I don't know anything about this.
All right. So the first building on the property in 1857 was the Rogers Female Academy, and then it became a Confederate hospital during the Civil War, and then it became the Wood Thompson School for Boys, and then the Wood Thompson School became co-ed. And at some point, that building was taken down, and then in 1906, the house was built. But the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of people who have taken pictures of the house have seen the picture people's children. Sorry, a lot of people that have taken pictures of the house, it shows children's faces peeking out of the windows. And there are a lot of stories of children playing downstairs, a group of 3 girls that have been seen playing downstairs, children's voices, laughing, all kinds of stuff like that. There's also a smell of cigar smoke from the front room downstairs all of the time. So apparently, cigar smoke is something that just carries on with the paranormal because it's in your hotel too.
Right? That lingers. What is the cigar smoke attributed to? Is it a specific person or
They think it was Mr. Allen, the original owner of the house.
okay?
After the couple bought the house, they started seeing something a little bit odd within the first week. And that was their youngest son, Jacob, who is 5. They started seeing him in places where he shouldn't be or where he said he wasn't. So they'd be coming down the hall and they'd see Jacob downstairs coming out of the bathroom, which he would not use, by the way. Jacob said that that bathroom was yucky and he didn't want to go in there. He didn't use the term yucky.
That specific bathroom, but any of the others were fine.
Yes, he would always go upstairs to use the bathroom. He did not like the downstairs bathroom, and that is the one that the lady got locked into in the 1960s.
Okay.
However, his parents saw him coming out of it at one point in time, like the day they started moving in. And then a few minutes later, the dad goes upstairs and finds Jacob sitting on the floor upstairs watching a video. I think it was Star Wars. And
Not in the bathroom, though.
not in the bathroom, and he didn't run past him to get up the stairs, and he wouldn't have beat him coming up from the back stairs, and he wasn't winded or flushed or anything. So they said, well, how did you get back up here? You were just downstairs. And he said, no, I wasn't. I've been right here. They kept seeing Jacob here and there all over the place, but it wasn't Jacob because Jacob was absolutely somewhere else at the time. But this little 5-year-old boy looks like Jacob.
Okay, I was about to say, how similar do they look? Because you know your kid.
It's a doppelganger, is what they say. And they actually saw a doppelganger of the mother at one point, too. It was the mother's friend who was there helping them move. And she's like, hey, can you help me move this box? And the mother didn't answer. So the friend is like, hey, what's up? And the mother comes out of the back room and is like, what's going on? And she's like, what? Wait. So her friend saw her doppelganger, but they've only ever seen Jacob's doppelganger.
Okay, the doppelganger thing is truly terrifying. That one's scary.
I do not like doppelgangers at all. It gets worse. So after the first few weeks of being there, they didn't see the doppelganger of Jacob anymore. Eventually, Jacob started acting randomly gloomy and sullen instead of cheerful and bouncy and vibrant. And when they would ask him, what's wrong, Jacob? He'd say, I'm not Jacob anymore.
What?
And then a few minutes later, he'd go back to being himself.
No, time to move.
No. And I don't know how long this went on. I don't know if it stopped once he was a little bit older.
Oh my God.
Or they didn't really go into detail about the I'm not Jacob anymore situation. And I'm like, this doppelganger has possessed this child. This is not good. I'd be moving. I don't care how nice the house is.
Yeah, no. No.
Sorry, in 2008, because this house is famously haunted, they had some paranormal investigators contact them. And they said, okay, you guys can come. After they talked to them and they discovered that these weren't the yelly, screamy TV sort. They brought in scientific equipment and were very respectful and were really trying to figure out what was going on using semi-scientific devices and such like that.
Okay.
They started setting up their equipment, and when they were getting ready for the dark time or whatever it is that they call it, when they turn off all the lights and the people leave the house and they're ready to do their investigation, the kids had gone to stay with various friends, and the parents were going to go see a late night movie and go out to dinner. So they were going to give these investigators some time alone in the house. Well, as soon as they leave the house, they only get a few blocks away when they get a phone call from the paranormal investigators saying that the power's out. They get back home, and despite the fact that it's a clear night, there's no wind, there's nothing going on. A tree limb had fallen, hit a transformer, and knocked out the power.
Did it knock out only their power or the neighbors as well?
I don't know if it cascaded to the neighbors. It did knock down their transformer. So I don't know. It didn't really say whether it knocked out everybody's power or just theirs, but they called the power company and they waited and they waited and they waited. And eventually the investigators were like, you know what, we'll just come back later. It's fine. This was, I think, mid-June, and then they came back on June 28th. And that's when they started taking a bunch of pictures and doing a lot of recordings, EVP recordings. The pictures show a spiraling, gauzy something in the Liddell bedroom, and they show a blue-white mist over the doorway of the dining room, and they got 41 EVP recordings, and some of them seem to actually be answering their questions.
What kind of questions did they ask?
They asked things like, are you happy here? Do you like it here? Um, what's going on? What just happened? And they got answers like limb fell and no. And someone asked, are the spirits here nice? And they said yes, stuff like that.
Interesting.
They did say the name Michael a few times, but we don't know who Michael is.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of options with all the children that sort of ran through.
There are a lot of options for the children. Maybe it was somebody that had lived in the apartments. It could be one of the servants from the 1900s. It could be a lot of different people or, somebody who dated a Michael. It's just really not clear who Michael is. And they also answered, I told you that the Allens had the three daughters. Well, they also had a son that didn't survive childhood, and his name was Walter. And when one of the paranormal investigators mentioned a child that didn't survive childhood, the EVP picked up the name Walter as if it was answering, yes, his name's Walter. This happened in 2008, and they came back in July of 2008 to play these recordings for the people that lived there. And they were a little bit freaked out, but they thought it was also kind of cool. And no one still knew why Liddell had done what she had done, but there were stories going around about it being maybe a broken heart or something like that. Someone thought that maybe she had a man and it didn't work out, but nobody really knew until in 2009 the owner said he felt like someone told him to go look in the attic. He didn't like the attic. He didn't want to go up into the attic. He hated the attic. It made him feel creepy, but every time he went up there he found something cool, like papers or pictures or that sort of thing. So he did go up there.
Okay, that would be a cool place to explore.
Yeah, he didn't like it, but he went. And it told him to bring a flashlight. So he's like, okay. He went up there and he said when he was looking around, he felt a small hand nudge him into the right place. And he found a little piece of paper sticking up from between two floorboards. He tugged on it and he found an envelope. It was unsealed and it had papers in it. And it turned out that this was letters. So then he started, he pulled up a couple of floorboards up in the attic and he found a treasure trove. And that is how we know what happened.
Tell me what happened.
Okay. So the man's name that was writing to Liddell, his name was Prentice Savage. And Prentice and Liddell had grown up together. But he had to leave for a job opportunity in 1913. And, they had sort of dated and, maybe flirted a little bit and maybe thought this is the one for me. But when he left to go for this job opportunity in 1913, they did write to each other. But with him being gone, Liddell was courted by Boyd, and she did eventually marry him and regretted it. So Boyd was not from Arkansas. He ran a pool hall. He had moved there to open a pool hall, and he was a drinking man and a womanizer. And he changed jobs a lot and moved around a lot trying to find a good situation, which left Liddell and their son a little bit at odd ends. So that's why she got divorced, because of the drinking and the womanizing. Her obituary said that she lived in Arkansas for most of her life, but there's actually proof that she traveled around a lot before she came back home to live in Arkansas, even after her divorce. So I don't really know exactly what she was doing between the time of her divorce and when she moved back home to help her mom, which happened after the death of her son. So maybe she was just, hanging out staying wherever her son was, whatever it was. But eventually she went back to Arkansas, stayed into the Allen home with her mom to take care of her. She was in her 70s, and Liddell was a good daughter. So she was lonely though, and she had friends, but she had had a lot of failed relationships, and her most recent failed one had been with a military guy, and it hadn't worked out. And she was single from, or at least not in long-term serious relationships, from 1927 to 1948. And she had gotten kind of lonely and a little bereft and a little bit feeling like she was never going to find happiness again. That is until March. And in March of 1948, after she had gone out with some friends to a racetrack, she happened to see Prentice. And her and her friends, because he was a local, they knew Prentice, and Liddell was really good friends with his sister. So they hung out again, and Prentice was all, "Oh my gosh, you don't look like you've changed a bit," which, of course, when you're 54, you definitely want to hear from somebody you dated in your teens.
What
Right?
a sweet moment. Yeah,
Right?
that's really sweet.
You're still just as young and beautiful as you always were,
Aw,
which was really sweet. The problem is, Prentice is married,
less awe.
and his wife was with him on that trip. Even though they had fun and hung out and had a good time, his wife was there. But the next day, he stopped by her house again to visit her. It hit it back off again, and nothing really happened or anything like that, but they were thinking about each other. That was the case even after he went back to, I think he lived in Minnesota, Michigan, somewhere up north. Anyway, Prentice had been in the war and it had hardened him, and he had made his fortune in oil after he got out of the military. So he was kind of a hard man. But some of the people who knew him and had worked for him later said that he was actually a kind older man. So I guess different people saw different facets of him.
Okay, fair.
He was a teetotaler, so he didn't drink at all, which I think Liddell saw as a very good thing after
Oh,
Boyd.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That was probably on her checklist.
Oh yeah, I would think so. By contrast, Liddell was really soft and gentle and soft-spoken and religious, and he was not. They had some things that they had in common, and they got along really well, but they also had some things that weren't going to lead to a good relationship, even if they were both single, which they weren't. Because Prentice traveled for work, and because him and his wife didn't really get along, and because he still had family in Monticello, they spent 3 weeks together that summer. The initial letters that they sent back and forth were innocent and, just kind of sweet. Yes, Liddell was still a little bit nervous about sending letters to a married man, but they were pretty innocent. After this 3 weeks they spent together during the summer there in Arkansas, the letters got a little spicier and had a little bit more innuendo. It was still the 1940s, so it wasn't too spicy, and there was still a risk of somebody reading them. So they used a lot of covert language and in jokes, but there was definitely a
Wait,
lot more I love yous and a lot more my dearest and my precious and that sort of thing.
aw. Can you give us an example of the covert spiciness?
No, it didn't really go into detail too much. It does say that they talk about food a lot.
Okay.
So they used food as a lot of innuendo, I guess.
Or maybe they just really liked food.
They might have just really liked food, but they talk a lot about eating and about food, and it talks about how they laugh and laugh whenever they see particular signs that mention eating. So I don't know.
All right.
The problem is that Liddell felt kind of awkward and guilty about up this affair with a married man. He persuaded her, and she loved him, and he promised that he was going to be getting a divorce. And everyone seemed to know that his marriage was not good, including his sister, that was Liddell's friend. And she kind of liked that he kept telling her that she hadn't lost her beauty like so many other people had.
People told her that she had lost her beauty?
No, no, he's talking about his wife. His wife had lost her beauty, apparently.
Rude.
I know, I know. He does not seem to like his wife, who her name is Helene, but he refers to as Hell.
Wow. I mean, he
Yeah,
needed to be
yeah,
divorced regardless of Liddell.
he did. But it seems like he was kind of just maybe a womanizer too. Like he would just say whatever needed to be said. And if he would talk about how bad his wife is and he was planning on getting a divorce, it made Liddell feel a little better about the situation.
Oh,
So he did tell her that he was getting a divorce, by the way. He did tell her this. So he was going to be leaving his wife, getting a divorce. It was just a matter of the lawyer sorting things out. So during this time, he planted roses for her, and they, that were supposed to be an allegory to her and her beauty.
I want someone to plant roses for me.
It's really sweet to start with.
If anyone wants to plant roses for me, my favorite are the yellow ones with the orange tips. They look like a sunset.
Of course, those would be your favorites.
I'm just saying, if someone wants to plant or send roses, those are my favorites.
My favorites are blue moon tea roses.
Aw, pretty.
They are. They're like kind of a lilac-y color because they can't really do a true blue, but they are really pretty. And I like the black ones too, the dark red ones that are nearly black. And I think the name of them is actually nearly black.
Those suit you. That makes sense.
It does.
All right, now that we've got that out of the way,
So they did plan a lovers trip to Wisconsin in August, and they ate a
sorry.
bunch, and they spent a lot of time together, and they went out on a lake,
What
and
a romantic destination.
it was where they could go, okay? It was away from Liddell's mom and Prentice's wife. So that's where they would go because it was a place that he had work things to go do and no one knew them. So that's where they went and they stayed there a week. And Prentice complained that she was drinking too much and she felt kind of guilty about it. So Prentice then his after this lovers trip, he still kept writing about getting together and everything else like that and how he wanted to see her and spend time with her. But he started because she I guess there's no letters from Liddell's point of view. These are all from Prentice. So we're only seeing his side of it. Other than
I wonder if her letter survived somehow. I mean, obviously they're in a different place, but
they're in a different place. There are a few clips like where he mailed things back to her to show that he was destroying her, but she had asked him to destroy her letters. So, and in some cases, he would mail them back to her so that she could see that he was really doing what he was supposed to do and getting rid of them. So we have a few like clips of hers, but not the entirety like we have Prentice's.
right.
So he began to write to her in September about how he's having trouble reaching a settlement with his wife that was fair to both of them. Prentice was saying that his wife wanted too much. She wanted the property and the stocks and bonds, and she wanted all of it.
I mean, though, in that time period, she couldn't exactly go out and get a job to support herself.
Right? I don't know if he's telling the truth to Liddell either.
Oh, that's true.
So this is what he's telling Liddell is that his wife wants everything and it would leave him destitute and he's not willing to sign the papers with her having literally everything and then they wouldn't have anything to start a new life together with. So Liddell is having some second thoughts about this not being right or that God doesn't want her to have this happiness because he's still married and it's a sin. She's starting to pull away a little bit and she's starting to get depressed with
Oh,
Prentice not holding up his end of this divorce situation. And, she's already had these two couples trips with him, and she's not feeling great about it. She's feeling a little used. She's feeling a little lied to at this point.
I mean, this is a lot of stress and a lot of like limbo and back and forth and like just be clear.
It is a lot of stress. And by the end of September, Prentice is writing to her about how difficult it is to find time to sit down with his wife to negotiate because they were both always gone. And he seemed to indicate that he was afraid that Liddell had found someone else. Like he's accusing her of messing around on him, even though he's the one having the affair.
Yeah, this guy is like a walking red flag to me at this point. What are you thinking?
Oh yeah, this guy is. Yeah, I don't. Liddell liked him, though. I mean, I guess when you have your first love, you kind of
Yeah, listen,
get a little bit
I
stuck.
have no room to judge anyone else for who you fall in love with.
Yeah, same. Same. But, I'm rocking the divorced life now, so it's all good.
Yay.
Yay! At this point, after he's been writing her about how he can't get his wife to sit down to do a settlement that's fair to everybody, and he's not willing to give up everything, he starts writing more about sports and hunting and golf and how he's upset because the golf season's about to end. But hey, hunting season's coming up. And Liddell, being the people pleaser that she is, she's like, I will go hunting with you because she doesn't, she wants to show interest in his interests still at this point.
She just wants time with him, it sounds like.
She does. She does. And he's like, oh, that would be lovely, but they don't allow women in the club. Bye.
That might have actually been true, right? Though,
I mean, it probably was true, but he didn't have to go to the hunting club. He could just take her somewhere.
what happened to all the poetry about how beautiful she was? Now it's like I want to go shoot something. You're letting us down, man.
Yeah. He also told her that the roses he planted for her were wilting and losing their beauty due to neglect.
We don't like this guy at all anymore. These love letters suck.
No, we don't like Prentice. These love letters suck. They started out all, you are my sun, you are my moon, you are my starlit sky. I dwell in darkness without you, Sorsha. And now the roses are wilting and not pretty anymore. Bye. And I'm going hunting.
Ick.
Right? Ick. So he's still like wanting to hook up though. So he tells her that he wants to meet her in Memphis. She has family in Memphis, so she goes to Memphis pretty often. Her niece and nephews are in Memphis. He wants to make this plan to meet up in Memphis and see each other again, but Liddell's not really here for it. So she tells him that she's happy to meet him, but after he has his affairs legally settled.
Good for her.
She backs down. And she says she'll see him, but she'll only see him properly in the lobby of the hotel because she didn't want him to think of her as an amoral woman he could use.
Okay. Setting boundaries. Good for you, Liddell.
Prentice did not handle this well.
Yeah, not a big surprise.
No, he was sarcastic and snarky at first, but then he got conciliatory and I was like, oh no, I do love you. I understand. If that's all I can see you with, and I'll be happy to see you. And anything I can do to see you, and I love you so much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am suspicious.
We are suspicious. So he again tells her in the next letter that he could not rush the divorce for fear that his wife would scent blood in the water and up her asking price, and it was already more than he was willing to pay. This is end of October, early November. They were planning for him to come to Monticello over Christmas holidays to visit his family, particularly his sister. But he wrote to say that it would be unwise and that surely she understood. She did not understand.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at her. I'm laughing at his audacity.
Yeah, he is so full of audacity.
When a man says, surely you understand, I promise you I don't.
I don't.
We don't. As like just all of us, we don't.
We get what you're saying. We're just not here for it.
Right. Yeah.
So he kept saying things are complicated, but he wouldn't explain how they were complicated, and he wouldn't explain what he was doing to remedy the complicated situation. Liddell's starting to fall into a pretty deep depression at this point. And her niece and nephews notice this when they see her in November. She goes to visit them in Memphis despite his crap. So she goes to visit them in November, sees her family. She's pretty down. She's pretty depressed. She's not her usual vibrant self. And then she goes back home. Prentice's last letter was dated December 2nd. He was on his way to New York City on a business trip, and he told Liddell that it wasn't just financial problems that were causing things to go slowly between him and his wife, that there were other things going on too that he had to manage with his marriage. Although he wouldn't say what, he said that the plans they'd made were terrifyingly difficult to carry out. That is a direct quote. And she asked his sister what was going on, but his sister was like, he's not writing much to me either at this point. And none of her other friends were being really helpful at all either when she's asking them, like, what should I do? What's going on? Do you really think he loves me? I don't know what to do.
When you say they weren't being helpful, were they just telling her something she didn't want to hear, or were they just not saying anything? Because
Well,
if you came to me with this situation, I'd be like, just end it.
just end it.
It'll suck and it'll hurt, but you'll have clarity, and that is your peace is worth all of it.
Well, his
I mean, that's
sister,
like, was she just not hearing that from her friends?
she is not hearing that from her friends. I don't know what some of them are saying. I do know that his sister was like, well, no, he really does love you, but he's having these difficulties and it'll eventually work itself out.
That's not good advice at this point.
But she's not getting any information from him either. He's not sending her letters very often anymore either.
Yeah.
And um, she also has this nasty habit of going to a spiritual advisor.
Okay.
So she was paying this woman,
Hmm.
and this woman was basically giving her a bunch of words that didn't actually say anything, but basically like if you manifest it and you believe and you pray, it will happen, and also send me more money.
Poor Liddell.
Yeah, this is what she's hearing from these friends as she's getting more and more depressed. And, the holidays are coming up, Christmas is coming up. She's got her mother, but her sister had recently died, her son's gone. This man, oh gosh, this man.
This
Um,
man.
right? Her niece and nephews are in Memphis, so they're several hours away. And it's not like travel is super easy in 1948 like it is now. And even now, it's still several hours away.
Hmm.
Um, And Prentice had started signing his letters X instead of P since early November, and he was no longer making plans to meet with her. He was just talking about,
Vague.
I would like to meet with you, but he's not making plans to meet with her. And he had promised to send her a Christmas present, but then he started talking about how he wasn't going to send a present, he was just going to send money. But he didn't actually send anything at all. Not even
Aw.
a letter. Like his last letter was December 2nd. Because she didn't want her mom to find out, Liddell had booked a P.O. box. And she'd walk up to the P.O. box every day. She expected a letter from him. Like if the letter had just come in, she would wait a little while before going back. But she would make this trip at least once a week up to the post office, and then she would go to a little cafe and she would sit and she would read her letter.
That sounds lovely.
She went all the time, all the way up until Christmas Eve. And everyone said she looked so sad when she went to the post office to check for her letter and then
Nothing's
went to
there.
sit in a cafe by herself with nothing to read, and there was nothing there. Um, and then, of course, on Christmas Day, she drank the cyanide, and that's why.
Wow, that's what a sad note to end our show on.
Well, there you go. On a not happier note, Prentice was still married to his wife at the time of his death in 1978. And a lot of the information I got was from the book A Haunted Love Story, The Ghosts of the Allen House by Mark Spencer. And he is the one who found the letters upstairs that the ghost sent him to go get.
Oh, cool.
And that is the story of the Allen House and the hauntings and various things that have been seen there. So we know that Liddell is probably one of the ghosts. And some people think it's Alan that's one of the ghosts, but I think it's probably either one of the children or some of the children that, have been there through the various schools, or it's the little 5-year-old boy that's headstone they find. I don't see why Alan would be there when that's not his place of death and he did live to the age of 28, not 5.
It is nice to think about the fact, like to think that she and her son are playing
Together.
pranks on people and they're together and they're happy. But you also made it super terrifying with the doppelganger thing. So I hope that they've passed on and are resting in happy peace.
Well, I
Um,
also did not tell you the fact that there is also the Hat Man that people have seen in the hallways.
go on.
Well, The Hat Man is a specter that people have seen, usually associated with sleep paralysis, and people have seen it all over the world. And he is supposedly a very dark, scary, got a very malicious air about him. And there's also a shadow child that doesn't have a face that people see peeking around corners at them.
Okay, well, this house is just less and less charming as you as you tell the stories.
Yeah, they do tours. I don't want to go.
I'm good. I'm
I'm
good.
good. I will take
It's
the spa.
interesting.
I will take visiting Morris and the spa.
Yes, let's go visit Morris and Michael.
Absolutely. And Theodora. So we'll go see them instead when we go to Arkansas, and that will be a lot more fun.
Yes. So thank you again to everyone who emailed or gave suggestions, and shout out again to our, mystery
Anonymous
man
friend.
who, yes, who helped me by sharing his experience. That was super appreciated.
Thank you. And we will see you next time. Where?
California.
All right. So, guys, we will see you next time in California. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye.